Hey everyone, thanks so much for checking out our channel. Today we want to talk about 6 reasons not to move to Kenosha. My wife and I, Alia here, we obviously live in Kenosha. We want to tell you why you may not want to move to Kenosha. Alia, I'll let you start. When we moved here in 2011, what are some reasons that we thought about maybe not moving to Kenosha?
One of the reasons might have been possibly crime rates. Like every other city, they have crime rates, right? And I didn't know which part of Kenosha, if any parts, were safe.
That's true. However, we came from the Chicagoland area, and Chicago has a really high crime rate. Granted, we lived in Brookfield at the time, so Brookfield was relatively safe. But Chicago, relatively speaking, about Kenosha has a lot higher crime rates than Kenosha, obviously. So when you compare Kenosha crime rates to like Chicago or even Milwaukee crime rates, Kenosha crime rates are minuscule compared to those major cities. So you got to put things in perspective.
And also, I guess after really thinking about it, it's only just pockets of areas that may have an increase of crime rates. And I'm not saying a deathly crime rate, but a crime rate can be anything from shopping theft to anything. So, I mean, like at any other city, it's just pockets and where that pocket is. So, that was one of the reasons I was thinking of not moving to Kenosha.
Exactly. When you look at most of the crime rate around Kenosha, it's mostly petty theft, car break-ins, things like that. Maybe
Mhm.
some house break-ins. Not, deadly crime, just annoying crime, I guess you'd call it. If any crime's annoying, I guess it's all bothersome. You don't want it to happen to you, but what's another reason you may not want to move to Kenosha?
So I love having, let's say, being and cultured meaning art galleries, museums. Like Chicago, where we lived, we had downtown. We had all those like the field museums, the Shed Aquarium, and exposing in the art museum as well. And wanted to expose our daughter to these areas, these locations. So that was one of the reasons why I wasn't too familiar with Kenosha, um, because I wasn't aware of the museums here being here.
But you were pleasantly surprised when you moved here and you found out how much art and culture, I guess you could say, Kenosha actually has, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's so nice because not only do we have it here, it's actually like really close and pretty affordable.
How many museums does Kenosha have?
Let's see, we have like three or four.
There are three that I can think of off the top of my head. There's the Dinosaur Museum, the
Public
Public
Museum
Museum.
and the Civil War Museum.
That's right. So there's three right there, and then I know that there's at least one or two that I'm not thinking of. Like
Hmm.
I think the Kemper Museum or the Kemper Center has a museum or something inside of
Yeah.
there. Um, I'm sure there's a couple other smaller ones that I'm not thinking of. If you guys can think of any, leave them in the comments for us. I'd love to visit them at some point. Um, and also, being Kenosha, we're right directly in the middle of Milwaukee and Chicago. So it's an easy, short commute to Milwaukee for those museums or Chicago for those museums.
Hmm.
So if you want to be more cultured, you can drive to either one of those cities and visit their bigger museums.
True. And I mean, after living here, there were a lot of hidden gems that kind of evolved or exposed to us as the weather got warmer, between the different festivals, the art festivals, art galleries, the small little art galleries, like the Lemon Street Gallery here in Kenosha, exposes you to that type of culture, if you want a specific thing. Music. There's a lot of music, live music festivals, which I'm super excited about.
Tons of music festivals during the summer and spring and even into the fall. Almost every weekend there's a live music fest here in Kenosha.
Exactly. And like the moving in the park here at the, what's it called, the Forest Preserve at Petrifying Springs. And the peanut butter jams, like the live music downtown. So I was super excited about seeing all these options, and you don't really have to stay home.
Thanks, Alia. Now you got that song stuck in my head. Peanut butter jelly time.
Peanut butter jelly time. All right. Well, enough of that. So now that's going to be stuck in our heads for the rest of the day. But what about you? What did you what were you hesitant about?
So one of my big things, we love doing things, outdoor things, both just the two of us on date nights and with our daughter. Limited outdoor options, especially in the winter. I mean, just being here in the Midwest. In the wintertime, it gets cold, snowy, so there's not always a lot to do outdoors. So being in Kenosha, what is there to do outdoors? I wasn't sure. Is there a lot to do outdoors in Kenosha? That was kind of a hang up for me about moving to Kenosha. There wasn't a lot to do outdoors. But again, Kenosha kind of surprised me. We're here on the lake, Lake Michigan, obviously, and there are dozens upon dozens of smaller interior lakes if you go west of I-94. There's always something fun to do in the spring and summer. You can go kayaking, fishing, tubing, just swimming if you love just swimming. Yeah, just lay on the beach.
That's what I like.
Exactly. Pretty much anything on the water, if you can think about it. I see people out there, what is it, parasailing, where they just...
Oh, yeah. Paddle boating.
Paddle boating, yeah, they do a lot of paddle boating.
A lot of trails that you can hike for those who are active. I love being active and I love walking these trails. As I get older, my knees can't handle the hills, but there's a lot of flatter areas that I can walk at too, and just enjoying the nature and stuff like that. So
Petrifying Springs Park here in Kenosha has a great area for hiking. It has a lot of flat spots for people like Alia who has the bad knees. And then a lot of areas that go up and down too if you like a little bit of a challenge. It's not a huge area, so if you like long distances, it may not be for you. But if you like a little shorter hiking, maybe an hour, half hour, something like that.
About an hour.
Yeah, it's probably a great little option for you. Get out of the house for a little bit, do some hiking real quick. And then there's all kinds of bike trails too around Kenosha County.
Exactly. Another thing that I really were hesitant moving here in Kenosha is I love being social, and I would talk to anyone upon anyone who comes my way. So I was afraid that Kenosha people were really unfriendly, and I'm not saying a city or state. However, I know back in the Northeast, there was a certain state which the residents weren't really welcoming, but so I was afraid about that.
Well, the Chicago people were kind of like that too when we were downtown Chicago. They weren't always very friendly.
Right. I think more of the bigger city, people are always in a rush, so they only had one track mind almost. And I was afraid that Kenosha residents were like that. But I was pleasantly surprised, actually.
People are very friendly here in Kenosha. You know, when you go into a small town cafe like Gateway Cafe or the Coffee Pot, they say hi to you. Even the patrons that are eating, they say hi to you. They wave to you. They'll smile at you as you're walking to your table. It's just warm and friendly and inviting. You feel like you're at home at your own home eating breakfast. It's nice. And even when you're just walking down the street, people will wave to you. They don't just kind of shrug you off. They don't scowl at you. You know, most people don't scowl at you. They're inviting, I guess you could say.
I agree. Speaking of food, you mentioned some breakfast food. I'm not saying I'm a foodie, but I'm very critical about my food.
Especially her coffee.
Oh my goodness, yes.
She's a coffee snob.
I am not a snob, but I am very, I have particular taste for
Critical
coffee.
about coffee.
Yes, very, very critical. So I was afraid that Kenosha didn't have many options of local restaurants that offers different variety. And I was actually pretty surprised because not only do they have the big chains, they also have a lot of those small businesses, which we love to support, options, and they are really good. Okay, what is your favorite restaurant here?
My favorite one is probably Kaiser's. I love Kaiser's downtown.
Mm.
It's right smack dab downtown. It's close to the lake. You know, you can park downtown, do some shopping at some small local shops down there. Stop at Kaiser's, get yourself a bite to eat, maybe a drink if you're in the mood. Get a pizza if you're with the family, a pizza for the whole family,
Mhm.
and just enjoy the ambiance, enjoy being downtown. Afterwards, maybe walk off that pizza because, you know, pizzas aren't always the healthiest for you, but they sure do taste good, don't they?
It does. Actually, was pretty pleasantly surprised because I have been on a strict journey with my food, and like I said, Kenosha offers a variety of food, so I was able to like stay within that journey, even going out. But that day that we went to Kaiser's, oh my God, the pizza was so good. Speaking of which, downtown, the Kenosha, I was afraid Kenosha, I'm a historian, so I love my history. And we were talking about the museums here. And my favorite museum is the Civil War Museum because that museum you don't see, I didn't see in Chicago. At least I'm not 100% aware it exists, but here in Kenosha, I love it.
Now, isn't it the only museum of its kind in the country?
I believe so.
That's my understanding anyway, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
And it's kind of nice because I had taken my students there and it's a really good, deep understanding of what happened. And not only does it go over the Civil War, it also brings in Wisconsin's involvement during that war. So it's a local history museum for our students, for me, for my daughter, and it was a really good surprise.
And a lot of people don't realize that Wisconsin actually played a pretty significant part in the Civil War, didn't they?
They did. They did. So it was a good learning experience for sure. And the tour guides and the volunteers that offer their services to our museums, they are fantastic.
Plus Kenosha has a lot of other history. You know, we have the streetcar that goes downtown Kenosha. Streetcars, I mean, Milwaukee has a streetcar, but they just installed that in what, 2010, 2012, something like that. So theirs is like brand new. Our streetcars here in Kenosha, they're vintage. They're from like the 1950s.
Yep.
Even earlier than that, maybe 1930s. I'm not sure.
I'm not 100% sure about that.
But they're like vintage, and I think they only cost a penny still to get on.
Yeah, it is.
So I mean, that's like traveling back in time right there. Who doesn't love traveling back in time for a quick tour around downtown Kenosha?
And it's a pretty cool experience and stuff. So Kenosha may not be the first place you think for history, and we have our fair share of fascinating stories as we've lived there for almost 14 years.
Yeah,
14 years. So from our industrial into unique museums like the Dinosaur Museum, Civil War museums, there's more to Kenosha that actually meets the eye. So plus, it's a great spot for history buffs who enjoy quieter, more intimate museum experiences.
Kenosha is quite fascinating. If you guys have any questions at all about Kenosha or the Kenosha area or Racine or even down into Illinois, let us know. Happy to answer any questions you have. Drop them in the comments. Shoot us a text, give us a call, or send us an email. If you guys like this content, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next video.
Bye, guys.